Top five.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the countdown. We're ranking the top NBA trade candidates on the market this season.
You see it, me and Rob got the throwback jerseys on today, so we're really here to talk about NBA basketball. And there's players in tough situations at the trade deadline. You got disgruntled players like Rui Hachimura, who got shipped early. You got franchises with a lot of tradable pieces like the Utah Jazz. So it's just interesting to see on a team base what teams really want to make moves and what teams are going to really be selling and getting rid of some of the players on this list.
Exactly, and this list isn't necessarily a ranking of the best players that could be traded or anything like that. You're only making the list if you're on the market, and then based off that, we're ranking them in order of who would make the biggest impact on the next team that they would be making. Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to start out with number 5. We're talking about D'Angelo Russell out in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. D'Lo's kind of been going around the league. He's had a few teams now where he just hasn't been able to find the right fit yet, but he's a good basketball player. He puts up points, he gets other players involved, he's a willing passer, and it has a really well-rounded offensive game, but for some reason it just hasn't been able to gel in the right situation, and now he's got his best friend and Cat out there in Minnesota, but he's been hurt this year, so that's kind of caused more tension, and I think the biggest reason why he's on the market is just a simple fact that he's a free agent after this year, and the Minnesota Timberwolves are struggling, and they kind of need some type of point guard or some type of ball handler to really allow Anthony Edwards to thrive at his best and really put them all in a position to succeed.
Yeah, the only place that D'Lo was really able to gel was in Brooklyn, and they wound up shipping him to Minnesota.
And got Kyrie,
And unfortunately for Minnesota, Tim Conley came over, was a great GM in Denver. He's really the reason why they're as good as they are now. Left a great situation.
Built a title contender there.
Built a title contender and just left for more money to come to Minnesota. And he really actually kind of jacked the franchise up by getting Rudy Gobert. You got to think about it. Last year, that's the best Minnesota team that we've seen. They won a playoff game and they lost their fucking mind.
I mean, Beverly was celebrating like they won the title.
Exactly. So crazy shit in Minnesota. And you got to think about it. Adding Rudy Gobert, even though Cat can shoot, won the three-point contest, there's just not enough spacing, not enough room on that team, and you can tell that it's just not really working out for D'Angelo Russell. It might be time for a change of scenery. We can tell that everybody knows D'Angelo Russell can put the ball in the basket. He can pass the ball, but for some reason in certain situations, the lefty has just not been able to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see if he's able to find the right environment next year. But at number 4, we have a complete different type of basketball player. Instead of one of the point guards who's great at scoring, we have one of the best defenders down in the paint, Myles Turner at number 4. Why is Myles Turner one of the top NBA candidates this year, B?
Myles Turner is a true shot blocker. And he's technically a 3-and-D center. He can shoot the ball. He's shooting at about a 40%
Very rare.
That's clear. Very rare. Big 7-foot-plus type guy, blocking 2+ shots a game. So, I mean, he affects 2 different areas in the court. And you think about teams like the Lakers, LeBron loves shooters. LeBron needs some defense. Thomas Bryant's not really the best defensive center, but they also got AD coming back. But, I mean, that could be a tough big 3. LeBron I don't really consider Myles Turner a big 3, but that's a big front court.
Piece, yeah,
it's a big front court between LeBron, AD, and Myles Turner. But really, Myles Turner, there's a lot of things that he does well. He's a complementary piece. He's used to being in situations where he hasn't been a focal point of the offense. So I think he can gel into a lot of good situations. And his time in Indiana, it's just time for it to be up. He's been there his whole career. There's a lot of teams that could use a shot blocking, 3-point shooting center. So that's why he came in at number 4 on this list.
Yeah, exactly. And Myles Turner seems like he's been in trade rumors for years now, and they just haven't been making the move. And the Pacers surprisingly started out the season red hot, one of the top teams, but they kind of fizzled down and probably getting more realistic about where their season or where their future years are going. And right now they're focusing on building around Tyrese Halliburton. That's the star of the team. That's going to be the guy going forward, one of the best, if not the best passer in the NBA this year, and they need guys around him. And Myles Turner could be that guy. He's a good fit. Like you said, a great D&3 piece. But just of what's happened in the past, the trajectory of their franchise, they're probably looking to get younger. And a great way to do that is by shipping off one of your better assets, which Myles Turner certainly is. And he's having a career year. He'll be a great fit for a team like LA or for all these teams that could use that type of piece. So he's definitely going to be one of the top NBA trade candidates on the market this year, which is why he made this list.
And like you said, Rob, I mean, he's been on the trade block for quite a while. And you've seen the Patriots actually make moves at center. They drafted Gogo Batadze in the first round a couple years back. They drafted Isaiah Jackson, I think, last year. So they're drafting potential replacements for Myles Turner, and it might be the time for them to finally just let him go.
Exactly. It seems inevitable, so it could be coming this year. And it's kind of similar to our number 3 guy, Bojan Bogdanovic, who after he signed with the Pistons, people were talking about where he could get traded to. And when you go to a team like Detroit, who obviously is not focusing on contending this year, and then their own, star player, young player, Cade Cunningham gets hurt, so their season's kind of derailed. They're kind of all in on the Victor sweepstakes, and Bojan is clearly their top player right now. 20-point per game scorer, one of the best at putting in the ball in the basket on an efficiency basis when he has the ball in his hands. A lot of times it does go in the basket, and he does a great job of scoring at all three levels and can really bring a very valuable offensive player to a contending team for a team that needs that type of player. And it'll be very interesting to see all the different teams that could be in for his services, because he's really a good fit in any type of system. As long as you have some type of defensive big man or defensive wing that can kind of mask the weaknesses that he has, he could really fit in anywhere, and he's clearly going to be one of the more sought after names this year.
Exactly. You think about number 5 and number 4 on our list. They're both around 27 years old, but why do we have Bojan Bogdanovic, who's about 33, at number 3 on the list? And that's because he pushes the needle a little bit more than those guys, especially when it comes to this year. He's really a 3-level scorer. Like you said, Rob, he can shoot the lights out, he can really score from the mid-range, and he finishes at the cup surprisingly well. He's able to draw fouls really well, and obviously he has a problem when it comes on the defensive side of the end. But if you put him in the right situation, which a lot of situations he can thrive in, he could do a really good job, even if it's a suppressed role. Obviously, on most championship caliber teams, he's not going to be taking as many shots as he is now. He's probably not going to be averaging 20 points, but he's an efficient scorer, and when he gets the chance to play, you know what you're going to get from him every single night.
Absolutely. And he's going to also add that, like you said, 33 years old, adding that playoff experience, that veteran in the locker room.
Very savvy.
Hopefully he doesn't miss the buzzer beater in Game 6 again like he did last year.
Yeah.
But moving on to number 2, we got Fred VanVleet of the Toronto Raptors. Why is Fred VanVleet now all of a sudden one of the top NBA trade candidates after kind of being their franchise player once Kyle Lowry left?
And obviously, Fred VanVleet is one of the best point guards in the league, and he does a great job playing defense. So he can shoot, plays defense, doesn't turn the ball over.
Scrappy player.
Yeah, scrappy player. But the main reason is because of this man right here, Masai Ujiri. I've never seen Masai Ujiri have a player that he doesn't think is expendable. You think about trades that he made last year. He traded a first-round pick last year. The year before that, he traded Norman Powell. He's made plenty of big moves. Traded Valanciunas, traded DeRozan, traded plenty of players that have been core pieces of the future of the Toronto Raptors. And you got to think about it. This is a very talented team. The only person on this team that's probably off limits is Scotty Barnes, because they just drafted him and he's so young. But Fred VanVleet's somebody that can get the biggest package of all these players back. And I feel like that's why Masai Ujiri has to entertain the ability to actually trade him. Just a crazy defensive player, gets his hands on plenty of passes, just an elite talent overall. So I feel like he's a good piece to get traded.
Yeah, I think you nailed the hammer right on the head. Like, Masai Ujiri is a wheeler and dealer. He is not afraid to make moves whatsoever, and the Raptors roster literally could all be up for grabs. Like, you could theoretically put Pascal Siakam on this list. You could put OG Anunoby on this list. You could put Gary Trent on this list. But like you said, I think Fred VanVleet is probably the most likely of them to get traded because he has that player option after this year. Likely going to decline it. Likely going to be a free agent. Probably is going to go elsewhere if they don't trade him and let him walk for free, which Masai Ujiri does not want to do. Really, the only time he didn't trade someone was Kyle Lowry, who, won them a title, was a proven franchise player for a decade pretty much. But almost any other situation, he's going to be willing to make a move, bring in those assets to the six, and allow his team to get better in some way, shape, or form. And with Scotty Barnes now, they have someone who they can build around going forward. And so Fred VanVleet could be on his way out for sure.
Yeah, you really got to watch out for the center market in Toronto. Toronto hasn't had a center over the last couple of years. They got Pascal Siakam playing center. That's clearly not his role. So they could really acquire somebody that can play that center role, hold it down. They did trade Jakob Poeltl in the past, but who knows? They could circulate back.
Get a guy like Myles Turner.
Yep, Myles Turner
could be a
at the
great
top
fit.
of our list. So a lot of players that Toronto can really go for and get rid of.
Exactly. Kind of putting our GM's hat on in this one. And moving to number 1 on the countdown, we got a 2-for-1. We're talking Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. Both of these guys could be on the market for the Chicago Bulls, who not having the season they probably wanted to. They went and got Nikola Vucevic. They went and got Lonzo Ball. They went and got DeMar DeRozan to put these pieces around Zach LaVine to show Zach, hey, man, we know this ain't Southern California. We know there's not palm trees and good-looking women everywhere and the beach and all these alluring things that we can't offer you out in Chicago. But we're going to put some nice pieces around you. We're going to go get those guys to try to put a proven winning contender on the floor. but it just hasn't worked out. And when those type of things don't work out, that's when moves are made, that's when trades are facilitated, and that's when a guy like Zach LaVine, one of the better players in the NBA, a perennial all-star, could be on the move. And if he's on the move, then you know DeMar DeRozan's on the move, because he's about 5-10 years older than him, someone who doesn't have nearly as much loyalty or experience in the Chicago market, and much more expendable when it comes to that, and also a free agent, unlike Zach LaVine, who just signed that big deal. So any deal that does include LaVine's going to have some big contract coming back, but those two guys could clearly change the game and make any playoff contender a title contender, and any title contender a title favorite, just like that.
Exactly. Rob, you brought up a good point about DeMar DeRozan. He's on an expiring contract. You're going to see a lot of people at the trade deadline get moved as expiring contracts. But either way, our team on the number 2 list, the Raptors and the Bulls are number 1. These are teams that are very talented, teams that we thought would probably maybe be like solidified top 8 teams in the East, easy playoff teams, and they've just underperformed this year. Obviously, the Bulls have a little bit more of an excuse. They don't have Lonzo Ball. They haven't really gotten the chance for their best players to be on the court at the same time. They got a true big four. They traded a lot to get Vucevic as well, so they've really gone all in on this roster. And you could just see a huge domino effect happen in Chicago. That's why we couldn't put DeRozan at 2 or LaVine at 2 or DeRozan at 1 or LaVine at 1, because you could see both of them go days after days. You could see Vucevic out of there. They could really start a true rebuild in Toronto. In Chicago. So a lot of work to be done in Chicago. A lot of good players that could potentially go out the door.
Yeah, this could be one of the more exciting deadlines, especially if those top guys we talked about are on the move. It'll be exciting to watch how it goes down. It'll be exciting to see who you guys think are the top 5 NBA trade candidates. You can go to prosportsoutlook.com, create your own rankings, put them however you want to put them, and let us know who you got in your top 5. And of course, this video is sponsored by Fan Gear Nation. You can check the link in the description and, get some great jerseys, great price. Can't beat it.
Big time jerseys, big time players, and that's why we got big time players on this list. The NBA trade deadline is one of the most exciting parts of the year, especially in the middle of the year. You got franchise-changing moves. You got some of the biggest superstars in the league switching teams. Your surprise deals that happen out of nowhere. Kristaps Porzingis got traded to the Wizards out of nowhere. So trades happen. Unexpected players wound up getting shipped out. But we think these top 5 players right here have good chances of getting traded and could really change the playoffs or the rest of the season.
Exactly, and these 5 guys could be on the move, and it can completely change the landscape of the title contenders, and it's really the last thing that could have that effect on who ends up winning it all.
We'll see if this affects anything.
We'll see how it goes down, and we'll see you next time.